is going well. In a career that spanned over a decade in the NRL with stints at West Tigers, St George Illawarra and the New Zealand Warriors, Russell Packer had a no-nonsense approach and uncompromising style of play, never taking a backward step. In 2013, Russell's career was brought to an abrupt halt when he was sentenced to 2 years in jail after pleading guilty to assault. In April 2014, the non-parole period was reduced on appeal from 2 to 1 year. After release in January 2015, Russell was thrown a lifeline from St George Illawarra, which allowed him to continue his NRL career before retiring from the game at the end of the 2021 season, finishing with the West Tigers. In an NRL article from last year, it stated that Russell had redefined himself through two pillars: football and education. Russell Packer joins us now on Pacific Days for more on his incredible story of redemption. Kia ora, Russell, and thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Really appreciate it.
Kia ora, Brian. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, Russell, what have you been up to lately?
Yeah, just relocated back to the Bay of Plenty, living in Papamoa Beach with my family, and with COVID and everything that happened last year, we were lucky and fortunate enough to get an MIQ voucher in October. So we just jumped on a plane and got out of there so we could get home and be around family for Christmas. And yeah, it's just we're grateful to be home and grateful to be back around our family. So.
And a bit closer to beloved hometown of Foxton for you too, whenever you want to go and catch up with the whānau, eh, bro? That's good. Now, I talked about the two pillars for you. Let's look at education. The importance of education for you, not only during, but post your NRL career, Russell.
Yeah, obviously with, my story of redemption, going to jail for an assault, and then getting out, education was one of those pillars, as you said, along with rebuilding my career or my life through trying to play rugby league again. But yeah, education was very important. Obviously, had a lot of trauma, a lot of issues in my life and my personal life that I wasn't addressing. And, through the structure of going and doing some tertiary education, that allowed me to refocus and recenter and essentially rebuild my life after spending, a year in jail and having my family and my two young kids in Australia, and with a lot of uncertainty in our lives, it kind of gave, me something to strive towards. So
we're going to touch on that shortly, but in terms of the demands, you played over 10 years in the NRL and, making age grade at about the age of, 18 or even younger. We watch as fans, like on the TV, and then it's like, but behind the scenes, in terms of the everyday preparation and the demands on an NRL player, talk to me about that. Share a bit about that experience, Russell.
Yeah, I was a boy when I came to the Warriors. I left Foxton when I was 17 years old and made my debut in the NRL when I was 18 years old. And, for parents with kids that at that age, it's like come from a country town of 3,000 people and straight to a city, of over 1 million people. So it was a huge adjustment period, but I've always been ambitious and I guess reassured in my ability to do things that I put my mind to. So, when I was that age, I was just singularly focused. My goal was to make the Warriors top side, and I was willing to sacrifice and give everything towards it. And I guess that all or nothing attitude is good in some aspects. It helps you to, achieve things, great things. But then again, with other issues, alcohol and drugs and whatnot, that same gambling, that all or nothing approach, can be your downfall as well.
Let's talk a bit about your upbringing in Foxton. Read a few articles where you talked about, and sadly, many of us would be familiar with this sort of lifestyle, especially, saying with regard to small town, drinking, going to the pub even as a youngster, and getting on the terps with your mates and stuff like that. Talk to me a little bit about that, please, Russell.
Yeah, I guess I had a lot of liberty when I was a child growing up in Foxton. Probably not a dissimilar story to most kids around New Zealand, unfortunately, but I moved around a bit with my mum. My mum and dad separated quite a lot of times when I was a child. So, I moved down to Nelson when I was 8 or 9 years old, and moved a few times around Foxton. So, with that movement and lack of stability, I guess, and the environment that I was in, I got to do a lot of cool stuff in Foxton. Not as many rules. One cop, and started driving cars when I was young, and started experimenting with alcohol and other things. And when I was young, which now that I look back on, my daughter's at intermediate now, so it's like around her same age, I was drinking quite a lot of beer and other things, and I guess that's just part of my story, and again, unfortunately, it's just part of the culture in those areas where it's just more normalized. So you're just a product of your environment in most respects, and if you have the opportunity to experiment with things and being a curious kid, then naturally you're going to try. So I guess that's kind of my story, and I wouldn't say that I had a bad childhood. I just moved around a bit with my mum, and I guess I was just that kid that was curious enough to just get in and try anything, and start playing league with men when I was 14, 15 years old, so still a real kid.
How did you manage that whole thing? In terms of, as you said, making age grade. As a boy playing amongst grown men. Certainly there were factors. From your upbringing and that, but still being able to, mask or manage that whole, responsibilities as a professional athlete with everything that was going on, sort of behind the scenes, under the surface. How did you manage all that, Russell?
I don't know, Brian. It's like something that I've reflected on now that I'm in my 30s. But I guess, when you're that young, you don't really care about much else except for yourself. It's self-centered and selfish, and all the other things that you'd probably expect of an 18-year-old child, regardless of what they're doing in life. But I was just so singularly focused on trying to elevate my position and achieve that through rugby league. And that's all I centered on. Like even with regards to education, like I went to high school a year early. I was put up. I was the head boy of my high school, and I done well at high school. I had a scholarship to go through to uni. But as soon as rugby league, became, I guess, my pathway out of Foxton as I seen it, then I dropped it. I dropped the educational pursuits, and I just went all in, that same kind of mentality. So it's quite paradoxical that later in life, I was able to split them. But when I was younger, I definitely wasn't. And that's one of your questions: the importance of education for not only athletes, just people in our communities, regardless, Māoris and Pacific Islanders. It's most of us, the way that in which we learn to is not always conducive to the mainstream educational system, learning with our hands and being tactile and touching stuff and learning in different manners. So, I was a mature age student when I went back to university, 26 years old when I started. So I'm definitely even keel when people ask me questions, you should tell this person to study, or you should tell that person to study. I don't think you can tell anyone what to do with their lives. You can give people opportunities, and with enough support and the right environment, most people, will make the right decisions. But you can't. Once you start forcing people, then it's not really their choice. And
everything coming to a head in 2013. Talk to me, Russell, about, do you recall that feeling, your first day, in jail, and an overview of the whole experience for you, and what you took away from your time inside?
Yeah, obviously I recall it vividly. Like, I made a mistake. I'd done the wrong thing, to which I, acknowledged and took responsibility for. That's the reason why I pled guilty. And I accepted the punishment. I went forward and took it head on, like I do most other things. Jail was tough. Started the first 4 weeks I did in solitary confinement or, isolation. So all other parts of jail after that were, I guess the community and the connection and just not too dissimilar to quite a lot of people in jail. Not most of the people in jail aren't career criminals. They've made mistakes like myself. They've had one bad night in their life or whatever, and they're in there paying the price for it. So, I met a lot of people that were educated in jail, lawyers, all accountants, people that had, done financial crimes and whatnot. So, I just got into a routine in there, and I guess what motivated me to come out the other side was having hope for my future, and my family provided that. My partner Lara, my 2 kids, and the hope that I'd get another opportunity to do things better and to be a better person. And I think that's what really motivated me to get through that time. I spent 1 year of my life in jail, and for something that I did, but then also, it punished my family. My kids didn't have their father in their life, and, my partner didn't have me there supporting her and providing in the ways which, I should be doing. So, the other thing I would say to Brian is what jail did give me a crash course on was the value of time and how we spend it and what we do with our time and, what we do with our life. So, I guess I made a commitment to my family to use my abilities to, through education and then also through rugby league to, make turn around our lives and make a stamp in the world. So, that's what I've done. Nothing's happened quickly. It's 8 years ago since I went to jail, and I just take one step at a time. Just like anything, it builds up. Savings accounts normally build over time, through discipline and whatnot. And that's the kind of approach that I've taken throughout my whole rehabilitation, and to be in the position now where I'm a graduate of the UNSW Business School with a Master's in Business Administration, and I'm a student at Auckland Law School doing a Master's in Legal Studies. So, from the person that I was 8 years ago to the person that I am now, it's it feels when I speak about it is quite a remarkable journey and turnaround, and but it hasn't been a light switch. It's just been a lot of hard work and support, family support within the rugby league community, particularly the NRL wellbeing education departments, and gone to see psychologists. Another thing that really hampers our communities again within the Māori and Pacific Islander communities. You got to be a tough guy or whatever, mask your emotions and all these kind of stereotypes of what it is to be a man or what have you. And really, unfortunately, a lot of us men, and myself included, don't always know how to voice our emotions or verbalize those, and they bottle up and they come out in ways that are counterproductive to being a good person long term. So I guess a lot of that and a lot of understanding, and probably one other thing too that you just can't account for is that I just got older. I was 23 when I went to jail, or 24, and now I'm 33 soon. So it's like, especially for males who mature a little bit later, like you just get older and you mature and you calm down a bit. So I guess that as well.
Russell, you've come out the other end, and how have you been able to stay the course in the in that 8 year period, and the day by day of just all the milestones in terms of where you were prior, or from when you went inside? How have you been able to maintain that on a daily basis, in terms of where you're at now, and in terms of the amazing environment, the amazing support network of your partner and kids?
That's a great question. I think a lot of people see people like redemption stories and say, you do a comparison, which is normal, like me now to that person that was 8 years ago. But I guess fundamentally, you never change who you are. You just refine. accepting myself. And I think that's what really helped me, be better, is that it's not a race. There's no finish line. You take one step forward, you take two steps back. We're human. We have our ups and downs, and life throws adversity and challenges at us. And people that survive, they don't not feel anything. They have the right systems and support networks to deal with those things. So I think that's basically, how I've managed to do it is, I'll never be a perfect person. Now I accept that. I have a lot of challenges, and just like every other person, but I just try my best and I give it the best go. And obviously dealing with alcohol abuse was been a big help for me. Something that I used to, I guess, escape bottled emotions for quite a long time, and hide from my feelings, I guess. And once I acknowledge that and work through that, which has been like years and years of counselling and therapy and you name it. So it's just, as I said at the start of this conversation, nothing happens overnight. With rehabilitation in general, and even the stuff I'd done, cognitive brain therapy and the rehabilitation cycle or recovery, there's always relapses in there. People always get, something happens in your life and it puts you in a position mentally, or your environment changes and, you just act differently. So I think, that's knowing myself better, but then on top of that, being in a conducive environment and having that support has just really allowed me to, flourish and be a better person, which I feel definitely on that right track.
Russell, can I ask, have you come to that place of like forgiving yourself and moving on? Is that part of the whole rehabilitation too? Coming to terms, just in forgiving yourself or moving on, as it were, bringing this chapter to a closure, so to speak?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, like obviously there's a lot of embarrassment and stigma when you go to jail, and that's just given in society. It's like, for anyone, for whatever crime that you've gone in, it's generally considered, the lowest place you can go within the hierarchies of society, and, avoid people that've been to jail, or this person done that, they ended up in jail. Those are the stories that were told. But so overcoming that, it created a lot of, I guess, negative publicity and negative emotions for all the people in my family. So, overcoming that and, I guess, being accepted, by my immediate family and by my kids, and overcoming that stuff. My kids are asking me, they knowing that I've been to jail. So those are the really tough conversations that I've had to have. And exactly what you said, being accepting of myself, that I was flawed and still am, that made serious mistakes and, took responsibility and worked through them. I think, that's where I'm at now. So I would say probably, you've summed it up quite well, with the ability to forgive yourself and forgive other people, I guess, too. And that's really when you can move forward, because you're not holding on to things in your past, you can let them go. But that's I guess, for the listeners or whatever, that's really deep and philosophical, but that's truly how, the last 8 years of my life transpired. It's forgiving, I guess, myself first and foremost, and then the ability to just accept things that have happened in life, and that's allowed me to let go and move on, and
Awesome. Definitely a word in season. Amazing. Russell, I have to ask, just with regards to the recent situation with Manu, if you were able to, have a talk with him based on your experience and what you've overcome, what would be your words to the brother?
I've been very close with Manu since I was young, and I've spoken to him before he went to jail, and I plan on going to see him. First and foremost, he's my brother, and I'll always support him no matter what, just like all the other people in my life that I'm close to. Like, as I said, once I accept that I'm flawed myself, then everybody else is too, and we'll all make mistakes. And I think with what I went through, I had support. Manu came and see me when I was in jail, and I'll definitely go and see him. And it's the thing, like I said earlier, you can never force anyone to be someone that they're not. And like myself, obviously Manu's dealt with a lot of issues, mental health and otherwise drug and alcohol stuff that's happened in his life. So things like this don't just, happen by chance, and there's a lot of things to work through. So, I know Manu's a great person that's made a mistake. He's not a bad person. You know what I mean? Like some people I consider myself that I made a terrible mistake, but overall I'm a decent and good person, and I believe that to be true for Manu as well. And I believe that his ability to redeem himself and to impact the lives of people, especially in our communities, which are disproportionately represented in jail, that is Māori and Pacific Islanders, and try and change that, stigmatization, and try and change the environment and have a positive impact going forward in his life. If he wants to do that, I believe that he has probably, a massive ability to do that. And as I said, regardless, it'll always be his choice. And, but I'll be there to support him. And, obviously his family is going through the same. He's got young children as well. And he'll be, like myself, no doubt, having a lot of time to reflect on, the reasons as to why he's in the position that he is. And I guess, go through this, the same things that we've just spoken about, which is always going to take time. Yeah. Forgiveness of self and understanding self more, and all these, things that take a lot of time, years and years and years to go through. But I deeply believe that, Manu can come out and make a very, very positive impact on our community.
Final thoughts or final words to our listeners and online viewers, Russell?
Just thank you for having me on the show. It's I guess I'm grateful that I can use my story in a small way, and hopefully that can influence someone that's going through some setbacks or some adversities, or doing some behaviors in their life that could lead them into positions that they don't want to be into, or that are already in those positions, that that there is a way out, there is hope, but with that hope you need to choose it. And I think that's probably the final words. Like, if anybody here is in jail already, or wherever, or in situations that are not the greatest situations, is that once you make that choice, you have to make it yourself. And then there's going to be setbacks, there's going to be times when you want to give up and just do the easiest thing. But if you really want to get on that other side, you have to first and foremost make that choice, and then just try and be better a little bit each day, and just keep moving forward in your life, and take the hits on the chin when they come, and try and surround yourself with better people, or good people, better environments. And that's basically all I'd say on that. But
well, a very big thank you, former NRL player Russell Packer. You've been so blessed today, bro. Really appreciate your time, and all the best to you and the family, and all the best for the ongoing renos, eh? Take care. God bless and have a great day.
Kia ora, bro.
Thank you.